need to treat your business like your body. Of like, it needs to be well fed. It needs to have good sleep. It needs to, get exercise. Like you need to respect it and treat it as such. Because a lot of times, especially with small businesses and one man operations, it gets into this thing of like, I'm just going to cope and try and, juggle the plates and do everything all at once. But it's like, no, take time to rest, take time to exercise, take time to feed it, in, we can sort of extrapolate that metaphor all the way down the road, but being in the present, I think I think that's the business right there.
Hi everyone, this is Joshua Hoffman and Alex Gerashenko, and welcome to another episode of the Masters in Marketing Agency podcast, where we deconstruct the why and how agency owners found their success and learn a little bit more about how they help their clients. Today I have Mike Falkow, the CEO of Meritus Media, a digital PR and marketing agency that specializes in data-driven strategies that increase brand visibility and engagement. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to get right into it with Peaky Blinders, the show, because the last time we spoke, you mentioned a scene from that show that kind of, really impacted you, or you relate to other things. So can you tell us a little bit, and I'll remind you, there's going to be 3 questions, so I'll remind you these, but can you tell us a little bit more about the scene, how it relates to your non-agency life with the million other things that you have going on that you've been successful with, and then how it ties into, business or agency, or your agency?
Yeah, remind me of the scene, because that was a few weeks ago when we spoke.
Sure, I have it somewhere in here. It was, hold on, let me go back to, all right, it was the Soldier's Minute speech. Do you remember that at all?
Oh, yes.
I have more
and
sentences.
there was a very specific thought attached to that speech.
Do you want me to lead a little bit more?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, of course. So you mentioned that for a soldier, there's only 1 minute, and the past is gone and the future isn't here. So like really about being in the present.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a philosophy that I generally try to apply to my life. And this particular scene, it was great because it was so well articulated, and it was like, there's been other versions of this same speech, but it was just really nicely put. Of it's what's happening right now that matters. What happened before led you to this moment, that's fine, but if you get too stuck on that, you're gonna end up in a bad way, mental space wise. And if you're too worried about the future, you're gonna get anxious about things that may or may not come to pass. So yeah, it oddly enough, and because before we started recording this, we started getting down a little bit of a spiritual route, but I saw this really interesting thing about, I think he was a monk. It was on some podcast, and he was talking about taking care of your body now, right? And it dovetails with this subject of like being in the present and not allowing yourself to sort of shift forward or backward in time necessarily, but this thing of like take care of your body. And again, like I'm connecting 3 completely separate thoughts all together in one. But I was thinking, as this relates to business, right? Of like, you need to treat your business like your body. Of like, it needs to be well fed. It needs to have good sleep. It needs to, get exercise. Like you need to respect it and treat it as such. Because a lot of times, especially with small businesses and one man operations, it gets into this thing of like, I'm just going to cope and try and, juggle the plates and do everything all at once. But it's like, no, take time to rest, take time to exercise, take time to feed it, we can sort of extrapolate that metaphor all the way down the road, but being in the present, I think I think that's the business right there.
Well, then I'm going to tie that to something else you said, which is you mentioned last time, again, we have our discovery calls, and you mentioned that when you have a creative project, you go like, you just stay in a room for a week and there's no distractions. Is that kind of related to the same thing?
Yeah, I think you know, and we had talked about flow state a little bit in our previous conversation as well. And so, and that's obviously different for everyone in their own experience. But I like to try and get as close as I can to that feeling of pure creation, just because there is a joy in the creation of something. And so if I'm distracted by phone calls, or, you know, my neighbor's knocking on my door, or whatever the case may be, you know, I try to just sort of really get that tunnel vision of like, I've started something and I want to finish it, but I also want to enjoy the process of getting there.
Do you have something that gets you into flow state?
What was that?
Do you have something that gets you into flow state, some kind of process that you follow to tune in?
I think for me, it's just focusing on the task at hand. Like that tends to sort of turn the volume down on the outside noise, whether it be like actual outside noise or outside noise, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Do you meditate or anything?
No, not specifically. I mean, I have my own way of focusing my energy. Honestly, like going for a walk and just looking at the outside world is one way to do that for me. Whether you call that meditation or not, I don't know. But for me, it's like, get outside, get out of your head, walk around, look at the physical universe, like look at the world around you, and just sort of get that head noise to really sort of dull down and go away.
I am going to bring it up again. I'm telling you, try finding a sound or like a 30-second weird song that tells your brain like this is time for a certain mode. I should have science, but I talk about it so much that I should have science behind it. But I mean, without the science, it's easy to think like, oh, you know, your brain is this thing that's very not moldable, but like it can be trained in a certain way. And when you start with like something that says, okay, my brain says, oh, every time I've heard this, we've gone into a creative space. Every time I've heard this, I've went for a run. So I was mentioning last time that like I do Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill is my running song. It's the first song I always listen to, and it says, okay, brain, you're about to go into run mode. And then weird song by Glass.
That is how our brains work.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, it always tries to make something into a habit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Totally,
so
yeah.
The more you help
discipline and habit and repetition, all those things, all very good. I'll tell you, just for me, and going back to like it's a personal journey for everyone, and their own thing works for them. For me, it's a little bit different with auditory responses because I have tinnitus. So
do I.
I've like oh really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so but again, that's a perfect example. It's like your solution to that specific situation is your solution to that. I always found for me that like having an additional auditory thing on top of what I was already dealing with was kind of like I don't know. It's really hard to explain. And if you don't have tinnitus, it's doubly hard to explain.
Sure.
But for me, it was always like, let me find something that gets my attention outside of what's going on in my ears rather than adding to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it's usually there's only a couple people that I found that I can do this with, but having a partner to go down the rabbit hole together and really get to that really creative state. Yeah, like Josh and I will go off on tangents, and
and then we have the previous guest that we now have a bi-weekly call or whatever it is that we kind of brainstorming session.
Yeah, it's amazing. We'll just bounce off of each other. Which you have to be careful of. You have another person, they could take it in a completely different direction. But I feel like that can be tuned. Like I have a friend that we've been doing this together for years, like probably over a decade. And can get pretty deep and actionable.
And I guess a way to kind of transition from this, like who you are to business, you've done a lot, and I kind of referred to it a second ago, but we didn't dive in. But you have been a professional surfer. You are a very real actor in some very real movies, which is incredible. You've done modeling, and now you run a business. And I'm going to keep this broad, and I'll see where you take it. But like, what is the commonality between all of those things?
I hate being bored.
I
mean, if you really want to abstract it all the way down, that's it for me. Like I I was having a conversation with my sister yesterday, actually, and she was like, "It's good that you're doing things and blah blah blah." And I'm like, I despise the idea of being unproductive. It really bothers me. And so, wherever that comes from for me, who knows? I think it's not even worth analyzing all that deeply. But like, I find great joy in being productive. I find that my morale comes up. I find that I tend to feel like I'm exchanging more with the world around me. I feel like I'm in a better position to help the people who I care about, like all those added benefits. But like sitting still for too long really drives me nuts, and feeling lazy and feeling unproductive and like I'm not contributing like that. It's abhorrent to me. So, also all of these things that I've done have been very sort of self-driven, and it does require quite a bit of motivation, and motivation can lack at some points, but you sort of need to grab yourself by the pants and pull yourself up and go, come on, like on to the next, and going back to what we talked about earlier, like having the ability to be in the present moment really helps with that. And you hear professional athletes talk about this all the time, of like pro baseball players talk about it, pro soccer players talk about it. It's like, go on to the next play. Don't get stuck in the thing that knocked you down. But you have to have that ability to quickly get up and then forget about that previous moment so that you can then move on to achieve your goal and take the next step. And with surfing, for me, that was like, it forces you into the present because there's real world consequences if you don't, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was like, just by necessity, it sort of trained that into me. And also with that, the other sort of side thing with that was it taught me that in moments of high stress, where the body's natural reaction is to tense up and freak out in an effort to survive in clearly threatening environments, the best thing to do is relax. Because if you don't, you're going to be burning 4 times as much oxygen, right? So having that ability to be still in chaotic surroundings, and then having that ability to be present and just move on to the next thing, those were really valuable takeaways from that. And then also just having your biggest competition being yourself. Like, there's nothing that I can control about how that guy surfs that wave. There's nothing that I can control about how that actor auditions for that part. Like, those are entirely out of my hands. So if I want to do the best job that I can do, all I need to do is focus on myself.
I wish we could dive in further, but we actually even started another podcast that allows us to dive in further. So I'll invite you to the other podcast to dive in further into those topics, because I mean, that's what I love, is all that stuff. We've talked about motivation and flow state and everything, and that's kind of what we're focusing on that one. But for this one, another analogy I would say with the forgetting is, they always say a quarterback's got to forget their interception, on the next play, because then they're a little bit more hesitant. I have the same feelings about you with boredom. If someone says they're bored, I almost get like this angry feeling inside, because one, either do something about it, or two, almost appreciate it, where you're not bored, you're just resting, you're just rehabbing, whatever it is. And I get like a cringe inside when people say they're bored. It's like, you have all of the ability to change that in especially today's world.
It's interesting. I mean, I have a teenager. He's turning 17 this summer. So it's like watching him go through that age range of 13 to almost 17. The amount of times that he goes, "I'm so bored, Dad." Like, dude, the wealth of opportunities around you to become productive with something. Like, here, read this book. Yeah. Draw this picture, go for a walk with me, like, just get active, like, do something. Or like you say, appreciate it, take a moment, breathe, and then you can get up and do something productive. And to see the maturity arc of his over the past like 4 or so years is remarkable. And I really like appreciate watching that journey with him, because it's reminded me, like, by teaching you learn kind of thing. So like trying to pass on what I've learned, but then looking at it through his lens and then relearning it a different way. And it's been a really interesting sort of mirror dynamic.
Interesting. I have a 3-year-old. Is there something that was there like some kind of chasm or turning point where it went from I'm so bored to actually being able to do something about it?
Dude, I mean, first of all, you're in the vortex of this journey as a parent now. So like, is this your first?
First.
Yeah, you're in it, man. I don't know that this is the best way to articulate it, but maybe you'll agree or not. For me, it's the best, worst, hardest, easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And all at the same time.
I feel the same way, all at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's long and it's grueling and it goes by really quick at the same time. And it's like, it's a thankless, it's a complete contradiction,
like supremely rewarding job. And it never ends. Like, it's constant. So, I mean, you're in your journey, and that's fantastic. Like, it's such a brilliant thing, and it's to be so completely giving of oneself to another. It's brilliant. So I love that job, and it's probably my favorite job. But to answer your question, that turning point, it's different because each stage, as your kid grows, there's going to be new challenges and new things that they have to learn, and outside influences versus your sort of track that you're trying to keep them on, or at least to point them in the right direction of living a good life and all of that stuff. But like, I mean, you're about to hit the 4s, which was not my favorite year. That was just for me, and I know it's different for everyone. But then from like age 6 to 10 was absolute bliss. I loved it so much. And then once you hit the preteens, it all starts to go wobbly. And then you hit the teens, and it's, oh, here we go, we're in it now. But my guy's he's to his credit, he's been very persistent and very self-aware, and he's maturing out of the out of the collie wobbles.
I gotta say, I think that's the first time that phrase has been used on our 100+ episodes.
I was watching, my girlfriend and I were watching the long way home with Ewan McGregor. Absolutely loved that show. It's so brilliant. And they used it as a comment of like, oh, I got the collie wobbles. And I'm like, gosh, that's such a British thing that I haven't heard in so many years. It actually means like a funny feeling in your stomach.
Okay.
But I think it's also like an uneasy feeling. So,
I want to start using it. I use bollocks
like
all the time. Am I allowed to say that? I don't even know how so I like pulling like little phrases from different countries. I think you might give me another one. All right. So to shift, Alex, I think we should just literally copy and paste this first 25 minutes over to the other podcast. To get on the business side now, I like to learn obviously a little bit more about the marketing firm Meritus Media, because obviously part of our goal for the podcast is to highlight your business and what you do best. So you can kind of tell us just a little bit more about the business.
Yeah, so the business was actually started by my mom. And to give you some context on her, she was a PR professor in a university in South Africa. She came out here. One of her first jobs was working as a PR person for one of the first high-speed internet fiber companies here in LA, and so she started to see the future of what the internet was going to do. This was in the late 90s when she had that job, and so she sort of got a glimpse of, oh, this whole internet thing is going to change the way that PR and marketing and promotion in general is going to be approached. and was an early adopter on Twitter, was like one of the first women in the women bloggers conference when there was like less than a few thousand. Now there's like hundreds of thousands in that conference. And so she was very much like a forward thinking mind in that sense. And then my brother and I came on board. We joined, and the company grew, and it's been very much based in traditional and sort of conventional public relations theory and philosophy as applied to the digital age. That's kind of how we've approached it, and it's sort of become a blurred line between a number of disciplines in promotional activities, if you want to sort of categorize high level, where advertising, marketing, public relations, and everything else fall under that category, right? So it's been a coming together of all those things, as well as my background in design. So now we add branding to that, and then, you know, building partnerships with other PR professionals, you know, commercial producers and so on. It's like we're expanding out from that point, but it's still very much like, let's start with branding. Let's start with your message and what is your story, and how do we communicate that to resonate with your intended audience?
Maybe you answered this already in that question or in that response, but you know, what's kind of unique about the services provide? What do you know? You're talking to a prospect. How are you really pitching yourself?
I very rarely pitch myself when it comes to talking with a prospect. My biggest thing is trying to understand their predicament. Like, I want to know, tell me a little bit about the company. I want to know what are your goals, and what are the problems and barriers that you're running into that are stopping you from reaching those goals. And if in communicating whatever that is, I have some ideas where I can be of assistance and become an ally to them in terms of helping to solve their problems, great. Then I can go, look, well, here are some things that I know might assist you in this. I absolutely don't want to solve all of your problems, because that takes away the game of business. A game with no problems is no game at all, right? So what I would like to do is create much bigger, better problems for you. Like, what do I do with all of this business? That's a big problem. That's a good problem. You know, stuff like that. So I like to view it as a game in that way and go, okay, how can I be your ally in this game?
Is there a place where you naturally start after those questions, or do you just follow the answers?
For me, it becomes very yes or no at that point. It's like, either I fit in or I don't. And if I don't, then I wish you well, and I hope you do well. You know, it's like, this is not a good fit for me. Not because I disagree with what you're doing or anything. It's just like, I don't see that I can effectively help you in this case. I might be able to give you a recommendation of like, look, you don't need me. What you need is this person, you know. But having me come on and like, I would actually not be of any great effective assistance to you at all. But what it does is I'm trying to glean from the person I'm talking to, what is it that you need and want? And
what are those? Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, and then for me, it becomes a question of, can I deliver those things or not? And if I can, I'm not going to try and sell myself to someone where I know I can't be effective.
Real quick,
what are those?
Real quick, Alex. Just I come from sales, and one of the best sales lines that I use is kind of like, tell me what you're looking for, and if it's not something I can help, I'll look for it. Hopefully I know someone that can. And that just like lowers the, I don't know what the word, like, it just lowers the worry about talking to a salesperson. So similar, that's on the sales side.
I think the for me, it breaks down to like the guy who's going, what's it going to take to get you into a new car today?
Yeah, right. That's exactly right.
There's that guy. And then there's this guy, which is, let me approach this conversation with the intent to help you. Like, can I help you? And if I can't personally help you, then I might know a guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. what are some of the things that clients that you do take on are saying to you as terms of the problems that they're having that you feel that your agency is able to really help them and you're differentiated in as opposed to others?
Well, I mean, I feel like, and before I say this, I also realize that a lot of other agencies might have the same approach. So I don't know that it necessarily differentiates us as an agency from another agency. However, I also have this concept that I had an acting teacher who was like, you have to mine your personal gold, right? There's a vein of gold in all of us, and it makes us unique. And so I think that's valid in recognizing and going, look, there is something that I am that is different from everyone else, because no one is me other than me, right? So I know that we have the expertise and the ability to deliver on what we say we can. So I have confidence in that. But also, like, there is a care for it factor, which is, I would say, sometimes lacking in other, specifically larger agencies, where you get lost in the mix or put on the shelf or treated as a number. Or I really don't like that approach. And so, it's a little bit like, I'd rather be a boutique agency that cares a lot and is accessible, and where you can get the CEO on a call and not just like sign with an account executive and never actually have any sort of relationship with the owner of the company at all. Like, that doesn't sound all that exciting to me. I personally wouldn't want to sign with an agency like that. So I would much rather have a personal relationship and a partnership and that kind of business engagement with someone who does actually care, who is engaged and has a relationship with my business, and who I feel is a true ally.
I forget who said it, but it was Steve Jobs. He said, like, I know agencies by nature are consultancies, but he was very hesitant on hiring consultants because it was never their product. And I feel like your answer was similar in the opposite way, which is like, you want a company that is more engaged, that CEO that is more engaged in all of their projects, and they're not just at the point where they almost fully delegated the entire company, because they still are in the day-to-day. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But
and if you look at the agency model as a whole, particularly ad agencies, I mean, from what I'm hearing, they're running into some rocky roads right now, where production companies are breaking off and separating from ad agencies, because I literally had a conversation with a friend of mine who's an executive over at a production company, and we're putting together a partnership so that, if any of our clients want, commercials made, we've got, oh, well, we got a guy, there's a partnership there. So that's sort of where that's heading. But his conversation with me was very much along the lines of like, I won't say the brand, but there was a very, very big brand, right? And it was in the health and wellness space, and you would absolutely recognize their commercials. So he produced those commercials, and he had a conversation with the guy at the brand, and the brand guy said, I've never met your CEO other than at that first meeting. I've spoken with him maybe twice, but we talk all the time. We love you. And so I feel like for the amount that we're paying as a brand for what we're doing, and you've ballooned up these agency prices, but my only relationship is with you. So it's kind of like, yes, there are a lot of behind the scenes, and many people go into the sum total of the work that is delivered. And so there are multiple salaries and, blah, 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 partners and so on. Like there's business that occurs over there. But like the ballooning up and sort of the hubris of the old agency model has run onto the rocks a little bit. And so now it's like, no, we can produce a commercial for a lot less money than the millions of dollars that it used to cost. And if you're hiring a PR agency as a consultant, but also as a strategist, then we're not the old ad agency model like of Mad Men days. Where
That's exactly. I was gonna. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, if you look at that agency model, right, and you go, where's the money that they were earning the most from? And it was media buys. That's where their main source of income was, or their highest profit margins, rather. So the creative was almost given to the client for free, because the creative was in service of the product that was then used to do the media buys. The product for them was the commercial, not the actual product that they're advertising, right? So for the agency, the product is the commercial. But now you've got a product that you can sell at like massive margins, and then do these huge profits on media buys. Where like that's where the money is for the old agency model. So
is that really in the relationship and them owning the relationship to those media distribution outlets?
Like if you look at like, okay, so Lucky Strike comes in as a Mad Men example, right? So they come up with a great creative idea of how to put the commercials together and what that ad campaign would look like. But okay, so they're getting paid some for that, but the contract with Lucky Strike is all in service of getting to the media buys, because the media buys is where, okay, I pay, $50,000 or whatever it is, or $100,000 for this, but the client is now paying me $5,000 or whatever it is, because the media buy upsell is such a large margin. And that to me it's unethical. If I want to be straight up about it, that's just my view of it. I feel like that's unfair. If you're already paying me a retainer to be your consultant and your PR strategist, why would I upsell you if I'm finding opportunities for you to do paid branding, right?
That's interesting. That stems into a lot of different industries as well, and like the owning relationships and kind of keeping those to the chest. Close to the chest, and then upcharging for access, really.
Yeah.
Where that access may not even be limited to that agency. Maybe Lucky Strike could have gone and knocked on that door themselves.
Sure, yeah. Like it also, there's the reverse argument, which is, the mechanic who walks into the factory and someone's like, you need to fix this machine. And he taps it with a hammer. And he goes, that'll be $5,000. And he goes, that's outrageous. You tapped it with a hammer. And he goes, oh, sorry, let me give you a breakdown line item version of that invoice. Tapping the machine is $1. Knowing exactly where to tap it is $4,999. So it's the knowledge and the access and the experience, all of it. Absolutely, 100% is like, there is that reverse point of view of the debate. And look, I'm not trying to throw mud in the face of any kind of agency owners or agency models. It's just my personal approach is slightly different to that model.
And we gotta jump to the screen share. But I have to ask, how many times have you watched Mad Men?
Multiple.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Like the details. Like I remember the show, and I've seen, but you had the details. All right, Alex. So we'll jump to the screen share. We talked about this. We just want to look at a website, and we realized that that's kind of just the best way to get in your head and really in the business's head of how you're thinking about, in this case, just looking at a website. But all right, Alex, let's jump to the website. Let's look at it for a few minutes, and then we'll jump to the end here.
Okay. So one thing I would look at is, I've been hyper focused on branding recently, and there's a few designers who I follow who I absolutely adore. Like their work is just fantastic, and particularly the way that they approach the process, and in coming up with something that's memorable, that tells a story, that's instantly recognizable. I think this brand could use some help in that area.
Would you mind sharing who those are? Those designers that you follow?
A guy named, what's his name? Alan Peters. He's brilliant. He's based out of Milwaukee, and he does these things he shares the process of actual clients that he's working for, but also like just spec work that he's interested in, of like, hey, let's fix the Google logo, or stuff like that. And it's, to me, it's brilliant because he's such a talented designer, and he comes up with just very, very unique and precise solutions design wise, and I really appreciate
Very cool.
that. There's another guy, a British guy named CJ Corley, who I really appreciate as well.
Thanks for sharing those.
Yeah, they're both on TikTok and Instagram, and really entertaining and well put together content. So anyway, to start with, I would say their branding could use some help. But if you separate the page, right, if you forget the video and all you're seeing is just that white strip with a not very customized typeface, earthy color, okay, fine. But like, how much of a story does that tell? How memorable is it? Does it communicate who they are and what they do? So does it have any personality? All of those kinds of questions from a branding standpoint. And I don't think it answers too many of those questions. I mean, if you look at their video now, it's a very well-produced video. It's nice. That gives you a lot of information. And if you look at the entrance to their building, it's that sort of pyramid shape.
I love it.
There's the A in your logo. Like right away, that's where I would start on if I was doing a brand. And they've kind of done it they've got grapes in there, but it's, I don't know. I feel like there could be a productive conversation from looking at. You see that white sort of triangle entrance to the building?
Yeah.
It jumps off the page at you, right? So I think that would be interesting to explore, certainly as option A, in a 10 option branding presentation.
I did a little jits with your option A there. You want to move down the website a little bit and then we'll close out?
But I mean, really good videography, good drone shots, beautiful location, certainly inviting. So, I think that video is doing a lot of work for them on this page. And that's why it's the biggest. You'd think first, but it's actually the second thing I see.
And the first thing was what? Their logo?
Yeah, it's the first thing I look at. And then I look at the logo and I'm like, then I see the video and I'm like, okay, I see what it is that you're doing, and you're doing it well. It's a very well produced video. Like, it makes me want to go and visit the place, which is entirely the point, right?
And that's also, what I was thinking is the intention right here is you should come visit us. Is that number one action? Or is that secondary? I'm not sure. Maybe he needs to start off with a visit. Well, because like as I'm getting here is the thought as my goal is to visit this place, or does this give me the validation that given this landscape that they have, the grounds that they have, that I want to buy the wine. Because all of the actions are pointing me towards shop, wine club, explore special prices, and then additionally I have events and visit us. So there's this kind of, but the video is all on visit us as opposed to anything related to shopping. But
it also, if you look at a positioning concept from a PR standpoint, right, the idea that's being communicated here is, with grounds like this, how could our wines be bad? Right. So, like, look at these beautiful grounds. Look at how well groomed the vineyards are, et cetera, et cetera. Look how well our sommeliers, they're clearly knowledgeable. They're pointing at the bottle, right? It's like these subtle little things. But it all communicates, like, we know what we're doing. You can trust us. You're in good hands, right? Just on a subconscious level.
Great point.
And so it's very well put together, like all these little shots, and it's very well lit and it's well produced. And see a lady touching grapes. We're obviously doing what we do.
Let's in the next just 2 minutes, let's look at one more thing and make a comment on one more thing on the website if we can.
Okay. This is fine. It doesn't particularly I think there could be some improvements just layout wise. Like, it's not bad. It separates the information. It calls out it does the sort of small, medium, large in terms of importances. It also separates with a color background that falls in line with their branding as it is. So, I don't have any negative feedback particularly on that. It could be a little bit more dynamic. Like, there's design tricks that you can use, like the image could float in, it could fade in. There's transitions that could be done that could make it a little bit more dynamic. I'm not sure that the shape of the images are particularly tied to any kind of branding guidelines or overall sort of feel of the brand itself. But these are nitpicky things. Like, if anyone from Artesia is actually watching this, like, you guys are doing okay. From a comparative standpoint, I've seen much, 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 much worse. Like, you guys are pretty good. I mean, I'm being very nitpicky.
That's what we're here for. I think when we started this, it's not just about calling out what's not good. It's also about calling out what we like and just make sure we have a full conversation about.
Yeah, to be clear, there's a lot right with that website, and there's a lot right with the direction that they're heading. I feel like it's that, I almost want to say extra 10%, but it's really much, much bigger than that, because if you start with good branding, if you start with a messaging architecture and an overall sort of, what are our core values? What is it that we want to communicate? How is it that we want to interact with our audience? And what is their point of view? Like, if you're asking yourself good questions like that, it's actually it's almost like an inverted 10 to 90 versus 90 to 10, because it gets you that much further ahead, that much quicker. So and to me, it's of that great an importance to have those things in place, because otherwise you're building on quicksand.
I like that.
Well said.
That was a good one to end with too. As we come up to the end of the episode, I just want to give you an opportunity to mention how people can find you and anything else you'd like to end with.
You can check out website, meritusmedia.com. Always happy to chat with anyone. And, if you need some help, reach out, say hi.
Awesome. And thank you so much for coming on the show. And for those of you who learned something new from this episode, please consider giving us a like or a follow so we can continue getting the highest quality guests. Mike, you got to be one of our highest quality guests, by the way. And I think we've had good ones, but your track record is pretty damn good. So as always, thank you for listening, Mike. I only say this when it's true, but this really was one of my favorite episodes. And I don't know, we keep evolving and we keep having great episodes, but I love this, especially at the beginning, just diving into who you are and everything. So thank you so much.
Well, it's true because Josh already invited you on the next one.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, we'll dive more into that next time.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Masters in Marketing Agency podcast. I hope you got a ton of value out of this episode. And before we go, I just want to thank our sponsors, DevNoodle. DevNoodle provides marketing agencies with the ability to offer their clients unlimited website design, build, and management services with fixed monthly plans. If website design, development, and maintenance is holding your agency back from growing, please reach out to us at devnoodle.com, where we make websites easy for you and easy for your clients. devnoodle.com.